Welcome everyone to part 3 of our Apple Press build here on, what is today, May 3rd? 3rd, yeah. And it's taken us a bit get going this morning because, well, I got to clean up from other projects. So we spent the morning here, the first hour or so, trying to just clear out our work path, getting set up by getting some of our tools out of the way and getting the table saw out here, the planer out here. And today, what are we going to do today? My goal is, cross my fingers, to get these boards cut down and planed down and glued up for the juice pans so that I can get the juice pan parts prepared and set aside. I also want to try and get the legs dealt with today. As you can see, due to the really dry air that we had going on, I wanted to, I needed to go ahead and slow down that drying process because there was some cracking that was taking place, and I didn't want it to get ahead of me. When I cut these up, we had some really dry air, and the outside was starting to split and crack because it's very thick wood. And this is the piece that we're going to turn out the scratter barrel at, and you can see that there's some splitting that's starting to take place. It's not a big deal. It's the same thing with the bigger. It has to do that somehow or another to relieve the stress of the wood because the wood shrinks this way, not this way. It does not shrink with a cross grain. It shrinks with the grain. So you can see all the splits on the top are radial coming out of the core. That's okay. A lot of this is going to get taken off. Then once we get to screwing it down, all of the screw heads and the screws will go in almost radially at a slight diagonal all the way around. So once this gets turned down, it will be held together by 60 or 70 screws cross graining on it. So anyway, that's the goal today, is to get our legs cut out. Maybe we can get the edges chamfered on it and the mortises cut for the cross pieces to fit in. And maybe this, I'm not sure, oops, excuse me, I'm not exactly sure what we should start with first. Probably these, because this will take a bit. Let's get these cut down and shaped up, and I'll show you those steps along the way. So let's get that going. Okay, we're starting with these wide boards. I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do to get them cleaned up and planed first. In order to maximize the wood, as you can see in the, let's use this straight edge. As you can see in here, towards the center here, that thing dries this way, so it warped this way. Now this part is fine and this part is fine. I mean, it's almost perfectly flat, and as you can see, when it dries, like I said, it dries. This is a quarter sawn. You see the grain and the grain here, but this portion here that's not shrunk like this. So we're going to clean these up real quick, and we've already got that one done. You want to show them that one? So we've taken off the edges, so I'm going to take the bark off, and I'm going to set this thing up where I can just skim off the bark, and I want to, oops, I want to get just an 1.5 inch offset. So here's my inch. Show them, come over here. Show them that, just an 1.5 inch offset to the edge of the bark right here. And I want to make sure that I got an 1.5 inch here, which I don't. So I'm going to move this over just a little bit, and I'm going to check it right here, and I'm just an 1.5 inch. Let's get this out of here. And now, so I'm going to trim these edges here. Once I get these edges trimmed, we're going to have to rip out our width. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut out this middle section right here, so that the part that was in the center, and you can see there's some splits here. Hopefully we'll clean all of this out of here, and we'll just use the widest part of it. And even though we're not going to use this as a whole board, once we get it together, I think it'll be pretty good. Let's trim up this edge. You want to hold, can you hold that down? Oh, and one of the first things I want to do is check and make sure that my blade doesn't hit any part of my table saw. There we go. And kindling for the fireplace. All right, we're going to go ahead and get all this step done. I'll show you this step when we get set up on the table saw. Okay, I've gotten both edges cleaned up. I want to use this parallel section right here. So in order to maximize this board, I'm going to my small end here. I'm finding my full width, which is going to be 13 3/8-ish. And then I found the center of that, which also happens to be perfectly centered. And you can see that last center ring right there. We're pretty darn good with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the blade and I'm going to rip that width here. And then I'm going to rip that width here, taking out this middle portion here that has the most warpage issues. One of the things I'm going to do here real quick is get a different extension for this fence. So I'm going to clamp on the board here and get that set up so that I have a longer fence to work on across the table here. That'll help keep me true. I don't have a joiner to use to clean these edges up once I get them planed. I can't do that, so I'm going to have to rely on my table saw for getting me the best possible glue edges I can. So it's going to take a little extra work for me to do, but I can do it. I'm going to run through all of these boards and even this one, even though I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to do both of these boards over here and get them ready because I've marked them. So this is board number 1. This is board number 2. That's board number 3. It really doesn't matter, but this is the other one. I'm going to redo this one because, like I said, I don't like this glue joint. So I'm going to cut that glue joint out and re-glue these boards. So that's my next step. Let me get through that, and we'll show you what we got when we get done. So there's my previous one. I've taken out the glue joint in it and we'll redo it, hopefully get it a little flatter. And as you can see, I've got 3 sets of boards here, and now we just need to plane them down, and we're going to run them all through the planer and leave them, and it's not a set thickness that I want the maximum thickness I can get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these boards down as a pair until both sides of each pair are cleaned up completely. Once they're cleaned, and it shouldn't take much, these are pretty decent, pretty flat. I shouldn't have to take too much meat off of it because I want them as thick and strong as possible to handle the pressing pressure over a long period of time. So that's the next step. Once I get them planed flat, and I'll even run these through. Maybe I don't need to. They're laying pretty flat on each other. Because I don't want to take any more meat than I have to. But I got these cleaned up. But once I get them planed again, then I can run them through here on just the edge and just take a skim cut with that to true those edges up. Because there's going to be ever so slight deviations, and I want this edge as clean and true as possible. So I'll end up skimming off, you know, basically all of those edges just a 30-second, when I know these will lay as flat and as true as possible on the deck of the table saw. And having the blade extension, and I'll make a note, this table saw is not as a clean and accurate as I mean, this is a contractor construction site deal. You really need a little bit better one to make some good cuts and do glue joints on edgewood, but you can do it if you're careful. And what you want to do is make sure your measurement from the center of the blade to the edge of the wood, and from the center of the blade to the edge of the wood is equal, because it's possible to get this thing a little bit ajar, and it makes for some pretty nasty cuts. Another thing you can do is you can always look at your gap here on the lines and grooves that they give you, that will indicate whether this thing is running parallel to the blade or to the table. Now, it doesn't mean it's to the blade, because I have seen it where the blade itself is sitting at a catty corner in the way it's mounted into there. But what you're looking for is a good, clean, true edge, and everything that you can do to get this glue joint that we're going to have here as nice as possible. So we need to plane these down. I don't think I need to plane those. I think I can probably just glue those right up. They're still pretty true to where they were. These need to be. We'll get them planed up, and once I do, then I'll run the edges, and well, we'll catch up with you there. And she just reminded me I missed telling you something. Since I'm going to be planing these down, I'm going to lose the mark on top, so I'm going to transfer my mark to the edge of the board so that I know which one's which in the orientation. So these both are going to go this way, and I know this is going to be the top. So that's number 1. This will be number 2. Like this. And then number 3. That way I'm always keeping my stuff in order, because you can see the difference in the grain, and I want to keep it that way. So number 3. Yep, I almost forgot. He reminded me, hey, you're gonna lose your marks. There we go. All right. There we go. Yep, there you go. All right, and just like that, they're nice and smooth and pretty. I know it's not easy to see the grain in them yet, but the quarter sawn flecking, oh, you can see it in that. And this redwood's going to stand out really beautifully once everything's polyed up and everything looking good. So that's fresh, clean. This has been polyed, as you can see, to hold the moisture in, and that's what we're going to go to protect the wood for long durability. Now, I just had a thought I needed to mention to you. Why am I using these older boards here that were the bottom half? And then, not that you can, there you go, that's it, that's stacked. There's this board that you see is from that new tree. The whole stack behind it that you all have seen, well, many of you have seen, was from a year and a half or so ago when we did another red oak log. That was all sitting on my deck for a long time. Yeah, some of you will remember that. The reason I'm doing these boards and not some of the newer boards that I've got from the red oak log that we just cut down and are using this stuff. So this is from this tree, is because these are completely dry and stable. So I know that once I get them all glued up and everything, I'm not going to have any issue with them moving. The only reason I'm using these now, even though they're still got moisture in them, is because I did not have the material for these legs and stuff, and I needed it, and that's where we're going with it. So the gluing up of these boards and all the rest of it, the thinner 1x stuff, will have done all of its drying and moving, and it's been planed down and will be much more stable. If one of these does a little shrinking, over time, it's not going to be as big an issue for the whole project, because it'll be the outside legs of it, and it won't be noticeable as much either. So anyway, just thought I'd add that in. The next thing I got to do is, as I stated, now that these are flat, I'm going to reset everything up on the table saw, and I'm going to try and clean up those edges real good, because I want them to fit together nice and tight. They're not very good at the moment. They're not bad, but you know, you can see it isn't as perfect as I need for gluing up. You know, you could squeeze them together, and I'm not going to do that. So we're also going to do something else. As you saw with this board, where is that piece here that I cut out right here, where I put in, basically, this is like a giant long biscuit. This will add strength to that joint, and I want to do that, which I'm going to do on the table saw. So I can't do that on the table saw until those edges are matched and lined up good. Once they are, then I'm going to turn the board on edge, and I'm going to go over the table saw blade. I'm going to open up a little gap in the edge of the board so that we can run a little strip to glue it up. We're going to do one long strip all the way across it there, and I'm going to do it hidden, which means I'm going to plunge cut in one side, and then I'm going to stop and then pull the board off so I don't go all the way through. What that does is, unlike this board, the glue joint was offset of the center. In my juice pan, in the center of the edge of it will be a drain hole that gets drilled to allow the juice to flow out of the juice pan. I do not want to see that glue joint right there on the end of it. That just wouldn't be very neat, would it? So we're going to do a little bit of trickery here to hide the strengthening glue joint. So I'm going to go ahead and run these. Don't need to show it to you, but I'm letting you know where I'm at. And then probably run the edges and get the strips cut and everything, and see what we can do to get them glued up here. Got to take a lunch break here pretty quick, but we keep all of that. You all know that. That's why we got the tarp down. All right, moving on to the next step. All right, so tell you what, I totally blew it on. Should have got this to start with. This is one of my solar panel rail mounting rails for the putting the panels on. And it's extruded aluminum, just like the piece that's used for the fence there. And I totally didn't think about it, because that first board didn't seem to want to give me as close a joint as possible. But you can see this one right on down the line. You almost can't even see it. There's a little bit towards the end you can see, but that's pretty good. Let's look at these. Same thing over here. Let's get them out here where we can see them. Bring them out here. There. Let's see. Flip that over that way. And put that together. No, flip this one. I think this one needs to flip up. Yes, that's right, because the end goes there. That keeps our orientation. And that's pretty darn close. There, now once you get it together, almost beautifully perfect all the way down. Good tight. It just needs a clamp on it, and you can see the grain there. All right, so this will come together when we get that groove in the middle for our big long giant biscuit. But I think it's about lunchtime, so you ready to go eat? Let's go eat. That was good lunch. Did you enjoy your sandwich? I enjoyed mine. And some other entertainment on GooTube there while we're powering up for the second half of the day. So this next step is going to be a little complicated. So I want to be focused on what I'm doing. So I'm going to walk you through it in my thought processes. Then I'll do it, and then I'll come back and show you how it works. So I've got another piece that I've got of pretty oak that's left over from another project that we did, and sure what, oh, I know what this is. I know exactly what this came out. Hole drill here, hole drill here. This is a leftover from cutting the sink out of our countertop. Oh yeah, so Anyway, what it is it's going to be just the right pieces. It's extra thick, and that is exactly 1 inch thick. So what I need is a good wide piece that I'm going to rip. And what I'm going to do is I need to put a slot in here, and then I'm going to rip a strip off of this to go in that slot to become essentially a tongue in the groove for both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this to the length that I need. I'm going to mark it here and here. I'm going to find my location of the edge of it here so that I will plunge cut it, come down over the center of this board, just off the edge of it, so it'll be hidden and you won't be able to see it. I have to set my blade at just a hair more than half the width of this. So if this is 1 inch, so I'll set this blade depth to like 9/16 or something like that, or maybe not even that, just a hair over half an inch, in order for there to be enough room on both sides of the board. I'll find the center. I'll set the fence so that I fall down on the center. I'll run it through, stop before I come out so that you won't see that part of the joint. And then that'll be the center, so I'll flip it, run it again through there, finding the same start and stop points. So I'll have to mark both sides of the board. And then I'm going to bump it out, bump the fence over and run it out, and I'm going to widen that gap up so that it's wide enough for the strip that I cut. Then I'll make sure I trim off the edges to the right length so that it fits down in there, and hopefully all of that will come together to make a nice tight joint so that when I get all glue on it, I've got a tongue going into both sides. I have more glue joint and much stronger joint for the longevity of this glue joint, because it's going to go under a bunch of pressure. So, lot said. Let me get it done, and hopefully I've got something good to show you here. I think I got it. A bit of a challenge. Come on down here and look. Alright, so I had my marks here. That gave me my plunge point, and then my finished plunge point where I lift up off of it. I went and cut my strip. Realized after I cut them to length that I could have cut them at a little point there to go further up into this area where the saw blade curved out a bit. But you know what? I think I'm okay, because that fits down there nice and snugly like that. And then I can put that dude right on there and dust it. Line it up, and if you can see that, my friends, that looks pretty good. Once this is in the clamps, it'll be fine, and all that glue between it sets up. All I'll have to do is take the belt sander and clean it off. Now comes and I did all three of them at the same time, so that is pretty good. That's a lot of work for the day. I'm going to go ahead and get these all glued up and set aside. So once we get them done, then it'll be sand down time, and then I'll mark the cuts on this, and we'll get the octagonal sides on it, or where you got 1, 2, 3 cuts here, and we'll work on the edges. Lots more to go, but this is a hard part. This is getting right here, just to get the blanks basically. And I'm sweating. It's humid out here. Oh my goodness. So I got to get them glued up and set aside. Once I do that, I think what we'll try and do is start cutting to length our legs and stuff. And that's not a whole lot of interesting stuff. You know, you're just cutting pieces to length. I think that's about all we're going to do, because I don't know if I'm going to get out the the router and chamfer them and stuff like that. We'll save that for another day. I'll just get them set aside. So this probably will make a good end to this part 4. Just getting these blanks is quite a bit of work. You know, what do we got? Probably 4 hours in it, 5 hours, and of course we have our normal homesteading chores to keep up with. So we'll be getting on some of that too. So this is a good move for today, because the next move is going to be even more complicated, and that's going to be edging up the juice pan with some oak strips, and that's kind of fun to go along with, because it takes a good eye and good precision cutting to fit some pieces together. So I think we'll call it good on this one, and thank you for coming along for the ride. By the next time you see us, all of those 4x4 pieces, or 3, yeah, we got down to just under 3x3 pieces. We'll have them cut the length, and then we'll show you how we detail them out and prepare them for all intents and purposes being bolted together. We'll check on measurements, and we'll size things up and whatnot. So we'll catch you then.